Okay, hello. Welcome to the free response question of the day. Today we're going to take a look at the 2011 number 3, which I think is going to potentially be something like this on the exam this year because there's not a lot of calculations. You're asked to interpret how data is being collected and so no calculator use, no need for a formula sheet. And I think I'm really confident, as are many other people, that this test will not emphasize calculator use nor emphasize use of the formula sheet. Not that it couldn't occur, but it's probably not going to emphasize it. So something like this could be a really typical question. So this one says, let's see if we can figure this out. An apartment building has 9 floors, and each floor has 4 apartments. The building owner wants to install new carpeting in 8 apartments to see how well it wears before she decides whether to replace the carpet in the entire building. The figure below shows the floors of the apartments in the building with their apartment numbers. Only the 9 apartments indicated with an asterisk have children in the apartment. So there's the diagram of the floors and the little asterisks on the ones those apartments have children in them. All right, so part A, for convenience, the apartment building owner wants to use a cluster sampling method in which the floors are clusters to select the 8 apartments. Describe a process for randomly selecting 8 different apartments using this method. And part B, an alternative sampling method would be to select a stratified random sample of 8 apartments where the strata are apartments with children and apartments with no children. A stratified random sample of size 8 might include 2 randomly selected apartments with children and 6 randomly selected apartments with no children. In the context of this situation, give one statistical advantage of selecting such a stratified sample as opposed to a cluster sample of 8 apartments using the floors as clusters. So if you want to pause the video and give this a shot, that would be great. Okay, so for part A, it says describe how you'd randomly assign. There's 3 things you got to do to randomly assign. All right, in your basic random assigning, random selection, you got to number all of the participants, which in this case all the floors have been numbered. You have to clearly state how you're generating random numbers using your random number generator, and then say, in this case, the floors with those numbers you're selecting. Because what a cluster sampling means you divide them up into groups and take one group, or a small number of groups, in this case 2 groups, to represent the whole. So each floor would represent a cluster. And so if you want to pick 8 apartments, if you randomly selected 2 of the floors and then used all 4 apartments on those 2 randomly selected floors, that would be cluster sampling. Okay, cluster sampling is dividing into groups and to take one group or a small number of groups to represent the whole. All right, and then stratified sampling is divided into groups and to take some from every group. But anyway, so here is a method that you could use. Now in this case, the floors have already been numbered. So if I want to randomly select 2 floors, they've already done sort of the first sentence for me. So whereas if they didn't do that, you would have to say, assign each floor a unique integer between 1 and 9. And then you would just say, use a random number generator to create 2 unique integers from 1 to 9. You have to say 2 unique integers, okay? All right, or 2 distinct integers, all right, from 1 to 9. All right, the floors with those 2 integers are selected, and then all 8 apartments on those 2 floors are in the sample. And so there you go. So that's a cluster sampling right there. And so then it talks about using stratified, where it says the strata are going to be apartments with children and with no children. And I would think that would be a good thing to stratify on, because the reason you would stratify, you would create groups, is if you have reason to believe that those groups are going to be different in regards to whatever you're measuring. And I would certainly think children being in the apartment would have a differing effect on wear of the carpet. Okay, and so the advantage is, and so here is the way I answer it. And there's different ways you can answer this problem, but there's a couple main things you have to say. So here's my answer. It says apartments with children will probably have a different wear on carpet than those without children. This stratifying design assures that some apartments with children will be in the sample, while the cluster design does not ensure this. The stratified design will probably result in a more representative sample than the cluster sample design, and will have less variability in the results. There's really 2 things on the rubric they were looking for. And like I said, there's different ways you could say this. But you had to clearly say, first of all, somewhere in your answer, you had to clearly say that apartments with children will probably wear differently. There'll be different wear on the carpet. And somehow you had to say that the stratified sample would guarantee apartments with children being in your sample, whereas the cluster sample does not guarantee that. And so that would make it superior. And so there you go. So once again, if you got any questions about that, please let me know. Thanks for watching this video, and look forward to chatting with y'all again tomorrow.